That's it for the news, guys. Here, we're going to jump into our topic of the show, which is a very easy and simple one, but I hope it's very thought-provoking and generate, especially people listening and people in Twitch chat, generate some thoughts here. We had to figure out a topic of the show. It was somewhat hard today because I didn't want a headache and dive into something too mind-numbingly hard and had to think about stuff.
Well, we didn't have to talk about things that we're not qualified to talk about, like mental health care or other things like that, because you should really see a psychiatrist or some kind of, person who's gone through a school for that, who actually has proper training and knows what the hell they're talking about.
Bingo. So, instead, especially with the whole violent video game stuff and that happened all week, I figured let's do something positive and more thought-provoking. Topic of the show is our gaming inspirations. Somewhat of a general topic here, but kind of the question I wanted us to ask ourselves is, what are some of the games or experiences in our lives, yours and ours, personal lives, that keep us and motivate us to keep playing games and enjoying that hobby? Whether it's with a specific game, a specific moment, what game, what inspires us, what motivates us? And that's whether you're doing you play games, you're a content creator, a streamer, what have you. What are some of the things that motivate us and inspire us to be involved in this hobby that we love so much? Can I go first?
Yeah,
I'm gonna let you chew on that one there.
Yeah, it's dude, holy crap.
Start thinking about it, and that way, kind of give everybody a sense of what I'm talking about. So,
oh man, I like Milk Tea says gore and violence.
You're staying on the brand, Milk Tea. I love it. I like things that are not work.
All right, Cecil, I can see that.
Some people think that games are work, so it depends. That's cool though. I want to talk about. Maybe I've said it on a Patreon podcast or gotten more involved with it, but one of my gaming inspirations, and I sat here and kind of the small time that we thought about this topic and kind of bringing it up here, I personally kind of thought about it. My dad was a big gaming inspiration. This is funny because we're talking about the violent video game.
Isn't your dad a retired colonel in the army?
Yeah, he's a retired army colonel. But it's funny. We talked about violent video games. You're gonna see why in a second when I tell you the story. But I remember when I was a kid, some of my earliest memories with computers and technology were really with my dad. He was the one who really helped. I say really helped get me involved. He's the one who got me interested in games in the first place. I remember, for all the young kids out there, I remember when we had an old CRT monitor computer, and it was this big old beige Dell desktop computer, and we ended up. I remember him sitting me down. Mm-hmm. And showing me all these games. These are back in the day. Hold on, let me see if I probably still have them. Hold on. Yeah, I do. I should pull them out here for everybody to see. These are back in the day when I remember. For people who don't know what these are floppy disks. So these are back in the day with floppy disks, and I remember this is Street Fighter 2 on floppy disk. I have all 3 disks here. My dad had a lot of computer games. We had Street Fighter 2. He had Mortal Kombat, which I think, I have Mortal Kombat on floppy disk.
1993.
I was 6 years old.
This was High Tech Expressions, 584 Broadway, New York. They actually had their address on the floppies.
I didn't realize that. I went over to my mom's house and I grabbed these because they have a lot of memories for me, but I remember him here, you're going to play this game, Mortal Kombat. A specific one, and everyone's going to laugh, and you're going to pick on me, but I promise this is the truth, is that, I don't care about saying it. We had Doom, back when Doom came out, and he was like, come here, son, I want you to sit here, and I want you to play this game, Doom. And I was scared to death of this game.
Okay.
Because of the demons. I was like, no, Dad, please.
What do I do, Lord?
And I'm like, I don't want to play it. He's like, no, you know, of course. He's a colonel. He's a military type. So he's like, no, sit in here. You're going to play it. It's fine. There's no problem here. And I played the game and I loved it. It was awesome. It was fun. But playing Doom, playing Duke Nukem 3D, which for a 7-8-year-old kid, I don't know if that's probably the best thing to learn when you learn how to hit the spacebar in the strip club.
Look, no, that's exactly what you learn.
But like all these games here, for people who I don't even remember this game, Descent is an old game there. For people that remember that, but like Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, Doom, Wolfenstein, like these were some of the games, and it was really one of the big first things that my dad showed with me. And shared with me, and so it kind of helped me on my path to gamedom and diving into a NES, getting for some reason, because I wanted it, getting a Virtual Boy system and playing Batman on that to
oh man,
you know, Super NES. Basically, I think other than the Wii U, I think I've owned every Nintendo console that's ever been made out over here in the States. I remember when, you know, my parents divorced, and my dad was on the other side of town, and like one of the first weekends that we went over there, he took us on the army base, and he was like, hey, I just wanted to surprise you guys and let you know I got a PlayStation, like the OG original PlayStation. And I'm gonna let you guys pick out a game from the shelf. And my brother, who was younger than me, we ended up getting him Spyro the Dragon. My dad, because he's military, got Medal of Honor, which was a big deal back then. It was a really great first-person shooter. And then I got Final Fantasy VII, which I still have on the shelf as well. And like that really drove my love for Final Fantasy, which is a big passion for me, especially in my gaming mindset, my gaming library. And so I really would say like my dad is a big gaming inspiration for me, especially when like when you hear back in that time frame, when you look back, you saw like some parents that you started playing games, and some parents are just like, no, you don't need to play that. Those are for chumps or geeks or whatever. Go do something like sports and something like that. And
your dad kind of helped embrace it and push it into you.
Yeah. And, you know, I still did the sports too, but he wasn't, you know, it wasn't something that was shunned. It was something that, you know, hey, dude, you like games, I like games, let's play games together. And I don't think I would have the passion that I would for games if it weren't for my dad. So that's one big component of like my gaming inspirations that I personally have. So
yeah, man.
You got anything?
Yeah. So my dad's a helicopter pilot, and he's been a pilot long since before I was a twinkle in his eye. My grandpa taught him how to fly when he was 12. He soloed a helicopter at 12.
What?
Yeah. So I grew up with like aviation themed stuff everywhere. Like when most kids had like those like little red and yellow like, you know, cars where you move around with your feet. I had a wood plane that my grandpa had made for me to do that on. Like everything growing up was aviation. Our family vacations were going to Oshkosh for the big air show and the fly-in and the family get-togethers and all that kind of stuff. So like growing up, all of that was my life. And of course, my first PC video game that my dad let me play on his freaking DOS-based computer at the time was the Red Baron game, because, well, he got to fly the plane. Yeah. Of course, my dad is all about flying the plane. So before my dad had a proper setup with everything going on with all of that kind of stuff and what got me into in gaming or any of that stuff, like when my dad was to give you guys perspective, when my dad was in high school, he was flying planes and helicopters for a living on the side. Like he'd already had licenses and that kind of stuff. Okay. So my grandpa learned to fly in the Navy. And then he got his instruction like in Korea.
Okay.
You know, and so he got all his licenses and everything afterwards. Got my dad into flying. Well, my dad tried to get me into flying. I don't fly. Because post 9/11, that's expensive to get licenses.
I'm not shocked about that. Okay.
Nah. You're looking like 60 to 70 grand if you want to get a commercial pilot's rating now. It can get stupid expensive because you got to go through a school for it. Yeah. And I was like,
it's always been expensive though to do that. So
yeah, because you got to pay for jet fuel and all this other stuff. It's a lot of money. But computer games like Red Baron or any of the Microsoft Flight Sim, we always had those. That was just like a guaranteed. We're gonna have that on there. My dad wasn't into the shooters like Doom or any of that stuff. Like the first game system that it was dedicated to gaming that I had was the OG gray Game Boy.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah, so
classic.
I didn't get a chance to play on a Super Nintendo until my cousin Chuck and I ended up living together after my parents divorced. Because the way everything ended up working out, when I was with my mom was working in Virginia across from the Pentagon. And so her and her brother Keith used to carpool up and down from Fredericksburg all the time. So we ended up crashing at the same place for cost of living reasons because Virginia is hella expensive when you're working in D.C.
Okay.
Any of you guys that have been to D.C. understand that, I'm sure. Yeah, so we played Super Nintendo in his basement all the freaking time, my Uncle Keith's basement. Because he kept an old TV down there with the Super Nintendo. We had the N64 plugged into it. So Super Nintendo, N64, PS1, all of that was out in the basement on old wicker furniture that he had pulled off the patio and just put there. It's like, hey kids, have fun after school. We got to come back from work.
You know what? Parents probably loved us because they were literally like, here's the game. Be quiet for like 4 hours because you wouldn't see me. I'd be like,
so, like, as far as all that stuff, part of what got me into gaming was my dad. What kept me into gaming was kind of like you, when my parents split. My parents, because there was a long drive between trading out kids, because my mom was in Virginia and my dad was here in Alabama, we would actually, with everything going on, anytime we came back with dad, like, it was always easier because he's listening to his Rush Limbaugh and all that stuff, for me to put some headphones on and play some Mario on the Game Boy or some Legend of Zelda or some Pokemon.
Dude, I remember my Game Boy Advance SP. I played it to death because it had the backlight, and I could play Final Fantasy Tactics Advance in the dark when like we're on road trips. Oh
no, my road trips were Game Boy Color Wormlight.
I remember that. Oh my god!
I killed so many AA batteries, but that's what kept pushing me into gaming was because, you know, I would read books, I would read comics and all of that, but most of my hardcore gaming time was going between my parents. And that is what, like, you know, playing Legend of Zelda Oracle of Ages on the Game Boy Color, like that, when I beat that game, I was literally on the road with my dad going back to meet my mom.
Fallen Monk D20 in chat says, freaking playing games while dads listen to Rush Limbaugh. I relate way too hard to that.
Look, man, it's funny because my mom is very middle of the road. My dad is hard right wing, like Rush Limbaugh, coffee mug toting, like, yeah, let's go. Funny story, half of my dad's coffee cups in his house are Ruger themed. That's all I'm going to say.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised.
But, you know, I mean, hey, I will say my dad pushed me into this path, kind of like you, but it kept me there for other reasons to keep going.
Fun fact as we're telling stories. You notice something about this disc that's very interesting? To show you how old this disc is?
Black and white.
Nope. This disc does not have an ESRB rating on it because it hadn't been invented yet. It wasn't until after Mortal Kombat.
Sorry.
No, you're okay. Mortal Kombat, for all the kids, Mortal Kombat was the reason that the ESRB was established in order to have a rating system for games.
I like Milty. No, he does not. He actually flies an American flag. He gets mad whenever he sees Confederate flags. Sorry, I had to point that out there.
No, like the other thing, kind of talking about like our gaming inspirations, is that my friends really got me involved. Like, my friends were a really big push for me to, like, my dad got me into the door, but the friends that I made kept me in the room. I remember, not even just like this guy right here. We've been gaming since we met.
Actually, legit. It was like, oh, hey, man, you want to play games?
Yeah. Let's do it. But also, like, I remember one of my best friends and my next door neighbor at the time, when we both had Game Boys and we started playing Pokemon for the first time, and I got blue and he got red, and then I had somebody that I could get my little Game Boy link cable and we could trade games. And I remember when you first could start doing that wirelessly, and when you could do battles over there, and we would sit in his front yard. Like, games were part of the reason, like, and it's funny because, like, some people complain, like, you need to go out and experience outside more
social activity.
Yeah, like, games were the reason that got me outside. So, like, during the summer, I would wake up as a kid, eat breakfast, and then go to my neighbor's house, and we would play video games. We would go swimming. We'd run around the neighborhood all night. Like, my sister would have to come when the sun's going down, like, knock, knock, knock. Hey, dinner's ready. You need to come over to the house. Like, there were times where we would order pizza. Like, his mom would come out, like, you guys want pizza? And, like, we'd order pizza and eat pizza and just be kids during the summer and fall. And it was just, like, having those times, going over to my other friend's house who lived down the street. As I got older, we played Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicle. We played, we played The Thing. So we actually played The Thing video game, and it was the creepiest thing, because as soon as we played the game, we rented it and played it. Then we turned on the TV that night, and The Thing, the movie, was playing on TV.
Oh, wow.
It was hilarious when we started watching it. We remember us playing, like, Settlers. We played Catan. No. It was not Bushido, Shogun. Some game called Shogun that we never really played because it took like 2 hours to set up. And we got an hour into it one night before we were like, nope, we're done. We'll just leave it here until the morning. Having those bonds with those friends and kind of establishing those connections from middle school to high school was really, really important for me.
So you remember when Super Smash Brothers came out on the N64?
Oh yeah, I remember that.
So, funny thing, back in the day, the neighborhood I lived in, about everybody there, all the kids had N64s. None of us were PlayStation kids.
Wow, really? Okay.
Yeah, so the first time I touched a PS1 was hanging out with my cousin Chuck and TK.
Okay.
Chuck and I are about the same age. TK's a year behind us. For those of you that don't know, my mom's side of the family is absolutely massive. Grandparents had like 6 kids, so I got like 20-something cousins on that side of the family. So I ended up spending a lot of time with my cousins more than I did people outside of the family because we moved around so much when I was a kid. But that neighborhood that I was in, everybody played Smash, and I was the only kid who mained Link because of Ocarina of Time.
Yeah, boy, Link was my dude.
So it was like
jam back in the day.
Yeah, so like it was great because you would have mobs of kids showing up at all these houses to play Smash, and we all had our own controllers we brought with us. It was awesome. Those days were very, very interesting. You looking back, this is like, why did my mom let me run around with essentially an $80 controller and a game cartridge that was like $100?
You didn't really put together how much that stuff cost back in the day when you were a kid. You didn't really care.
Yeah, it was just like straight up running around, running amok all over the place.
Bearded B says, I feel you. See, Will, my dad is of 6 and my mom is of 5.
Yeah.
Cousins galore.
Yo, dude, I got cousins everywhere. Literally all over the country.
Failing Faster in chat says, my friends and I had big Halo 1 LAN parties back in the day. You had to find 4 TVs and 4 Xboxes and link up wires throughout the whole house. Yes, and Xbox was one of the first times you could actually do that.
So I got funny stories about that, actually, because I didn't have an Xbox in high school. I had a GameCube.
Okay.
My cousin Chuck had an Xbox though, and I had a controller for his Xbox. We played together that much. Well, all of us would get together at my boy Smiles' house. We literally called him Smiles. That was his nickname.
I love nicknames when you're a kid. Oh, that's Miles. I know him. Man.
Yeah. No. Literally, my parents knew him as Smiles. Like, everybody knew him as Smiles. So, it was insane, though, because we would show up, and there's like 8 Xboxes showing up at this house. We're trying to dig TVs out. Smiles' dad was a networking guy, so he was just making patch cables for us to, it was, like, his dad was actually really cool about all that stuff. He's like, "Yeah, you guys want to just play on the floor?" And we're like, "Yeah!"
Wow,
Dude,
that's crazy.
So back in the day, we started doing warthog jousting. You guys ever, like, this is Blood Gulch. Everybody goes for a warthog, and you're literally running them into each other at full speed. And whoever gets knocked out, you gotta just fight to survive. All the other warthogs.
Yes, we made it long enough that we get to hear my APC beep.
Yeah. So, like, I don't know how many other people did that, like, stupid stuff, but I loved making own game modes before Forge was a thing. And it was just like, yeah, no, we're just making our own game, man.
So, could you say that you were making custom games before it was cool?
I think all of us were.
Hipster? I can grab the hipster glasses or something?
Nah.
Put them on?
Nah. You're already wearing the hipster glasses.
That's true.
Yeah.
Stigander in chat says, Halo 1, we stayed up all night to force every tank, Warthog, and Ghost inside the Blood Gulch bases. Clipping was glorious in those days.
Dude, you could do some stupid stuff with some clipping back then.
Apparently it was a fun thing to do, man.
Yeah, especially you get a tank in there and just start firing a cannon.
Oh, God, that's dangerous. But, like, no, gaming inspirations, I think for me, all of that really boiled up to, like, I picked this topic, and one of the points I really thought about, and I always try and keep in my head, is that, you know, in a roundabout sense, like, why am I here? Why am I here recording a gaming podcast and geek culture podcasts with one of my good friends, like talking to people on stream and talking to people via audio? Like when I really thought about like my gaming inspirations, and I know we talked about it more in depth in Patreon episodes and stuff like that, but I really, like, more than ever, even after almost 4 years of doing this, like, I wanted to do this to, like, games. I feel like games have done so much of, like, for me, like friends and family, and have, like, taking me to these different worlds and showing me these different stories, and, like, doing content creation is, I feel like, my way of giving back
to the greater community,
to the greater gaming community, to you guys listening and watching out there. And I love it, and like that drives and inspires me personally, like, every day, and like making content and doing these recordings and doing these shows and like doing the streams and having fun with you guys, and it, like, meeting new people and having fun and playing games. And so, like, it's funny how this came off in this topic kind of sort of came off the cuff, but we went through a week where it was, you know, general consensus in the mainstream media was like, video games are violent, video games are bad, you shouldn't let your kids play these violent video games, blah blah blah. But, and it's kind of the point I wanted to drive home with the topic is, like, there's so much more than just violent video games. That is, the gaming community as a whole is not this huge, awful, bad community that people seem to think it is. And like, I remember when Grand Theft Auto 3 came out on the PS2. I remember my friend and I had the PS2 at my house and his house, and we were like, dude, did you play this game, Grand Theft Auto 3? You got to come over here. Like, look what you can do. Look, you can drive around this huge open world, and you can beat a hooker with a bat. And like, pay her the money for her services, and then beat her with the bat, and then take your money back. Like, whoa, this is crazy. And like, bonding and having those connections. And I know, you know, it warms me to, like, be a part of a community that establishes and drives that type of relationship of, like, playing and gaming and having these experiences together. because especially in 2019, we are more connected than we ever have been. When we started playing games, there was no internet, there was no Xbox Live.
No, Al Gore had the internet. He just hadn't bequeathed it upon us yet.
We weren't worthy back then.
No. We're not worthy.
But like, if you wanted to, the best you could do if you wanted to play with somebody was you had to be right next to them and hook in a cord so you could play with each other. And now we're at a point where I could go on my computer or go on my Xbox or my PlayStation 4 and turn on a switch and it says, hey, you got friends available, you want to play with them. And I think the gaming community and the people that I interact with, all you guys listening, all you guys watching, that's one of my big, aside from my family, and my friends, like a big proponent of gaming inspiration for me. Like I want to be a part of this community because not only do I love the worlds, but I love the people in them, and I love the people that play them with me. I get to geek out and talk about games whenever somebody says, "Hey, did you play Overwatch?" or "Do you play this?" When Chris Puminal from Credible Threat Gaming, when we went to go eat this past weekend, we're at this restaurant. It's completely packed, and our waiter comes over, and Chris is wearing his Philadelphia Fusion jersey from Overwatch League. And the waiter comes over and's like, dude, my roommate loves that game. He's a big fan of the London Spitfire. Also, we have a person who works here in the restaurant called Zarya.
That's great.
It just having those connections in those moments is so awesome.
Please tell me her hair was that purple.
We never got to see her. I don't think she was working that day. I don't think she was working that day.
Bro. Yeah, honestly, with everything going on, I do love the fact that I can get together. Honestly, my favorite thing that ends up coming out of gaming and doing this content creation is when I run into someone in the real world and we share this love for gaming and we can just sit there and talk about it for hours. I mean, I actually have to monitor who I'm talking to at work and for how long, because there are moments where I could literally talk to some of the people I work with for literally hours about the games we're playing.
Yep.
And it's like, I gotta go do work. I'll be back in a minute.
McSauce in chat says, I remember Grand Theft Auto 3 had soft chain link fences with physics that just kill my machine back in the day. Leon the Grey also says, me and my dad used to play Pac-Man. That was one of his favorite games back in the 80s. Pac-Man was fun.
Yeah.
Bearded B says in chat, I'm really sad that Ronnie Ray Guns had to go 18 plus. My 4-year-old really likes going there and playing pinball. It's been a major bonding time for us. Yeah.
Yes. However, what you could do is Pints and Pixels. They still have pinball machines, and during the day when all that's going on, you can still bring kids in there.
You can bring kids in there regardless.
No, I know, but at like 10 o'clock at night, you probably don't want to bring kids in there.
Good point.
It's a bar, so some restraint. But I mean, you could go that route. Oh man, that does stink though. But I think that didn't they have to go 18 plus because some people were not treating the equipment properly because they were underage?
Yes, they had some kids that were coming in and destroying the property, and so that's what kind of forced their hand to go 18 plus.
That's a shame because that's actually someone's personal collection. That's not just like a business's pinball equipment.
I agree.
Yeah,
100% agree. But guys, everybody listening in and everybody on Twitch, what are some of your gaming inspirations? What's inspired you to continue to play, kind of start and continue to play games and stay in this awesome hobby? Let us know, of course, here. Let us know in our Discord. Let us know at Twitter, at Rocket Punch Go over there, any of our social media sites. We definitely want to hear what your guys' thoughts are on the topic.
Yeah, also, for those of you who don't know, we're, also taking part in the Twitch Huntsville kind of thing that's kind of being built. And what's really cool is meeting other people who do streaming and are part of this side of the community and actually talking to them and meeting them actually and just discussing. I've had some actually really cool conversations with Steve from Pinball and Desirables, the shirt I'm wearing right now.
Steve from Pinball and Desirables,
General Palace,
Fallen Monk D20 who's in chat.
Yeah.
Stick, dude. There's so many people. Sniper, Miss Hobo Slayer.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool people in there, and they kind of get this side of the thing, but they're just generally cool people, and it's awesome to just meet and talk with them.
It is. It very much is. But guys, with that being said, I think that is going to be a wrap for us here for episode 147 of the Rocket Punch Cast. Again, we thank everybody who joined us in via Twitch chat, as well as everybody else who's joined us listening via audio. Again, reminder, there will not be a Rocket Punch Cast episode next week. We'll be out next Sunday, but we'll be streaming.
Yes, I'm going to be streaming. So, honestly, with a lot of this stuff, feel free to tune in. I just want to have a good old conversation, talk to people, and have some fun. Who knows? Maybe we can find a game that we could all play together.
That's true. So definitely, if you're watching via Twitch, come on back here next Sunday around 8:30 Central Time, or whenever he decides he wants to stream. You guys will be tuning into that. And as well, Raven Vulcans, you're very welcome. We do our best to give you guys some great entertainment here. Other than that, guys, remember, Rocket Punch Go, that's where you want to be. If you want to catch all of our content and everything that we make for you guys there, be on the lookout for some cool, awesome content in the future, because we got some plans. Especially, we've already talked about the game plan in the general sense for the rest of the year. It's pretty stacked.
Yeah, and hey, just as a heads up, if you're a local streamer or someone who does streaming, we are working on finalizing our plans for Extra Life. So yes. Hit us up in our Discord. Honestly, with everything going on, I do want to kind of figure out the best way on that, and I'm working on setting up a stream solution. That way we can all do it from the comfort of our own homes.
Yeah. That would be nice, right? That'd be awesome. Thank you guys, as always, for humbling us with your presence here on our content. We'll see you next time.
Laters.